I heard something in the woods, and within about, I would say, less than 20 feet, stood about 9 foot tall, just covered in hair. Facial features were so easy to see. It yelled so loud that I didn't even pull a gun. I turned tail. I ran back. There was more than one. That's when my encounter was for sure, 100% to this day. I tell everybody, Bigfoot exists because I seen him.
This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me, as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, my friend? How you doing this evening?
Great. Happy to be here.
Tonight, we're bringing on Dustin. And Dustin had an encounter in Oklahoma.
Yes. Another one.
Eastern Oklahoma, right?
Southeast Oklahoma.
Southeast Oklahoma. It's very wooded over there. People think of Oklahoma as a flat kind of deserty kind of state.
Wide open plains,
or corn,
not down that area.
You get down there and you're getting into the southern woods there, and some weird things going on. So I'm excited to bring Dustin on and hear what the heck happened to him. I think it was a Bigfoot encounter. Let's see what's going on with it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get him. You're listening to the Cryptid Creature Show with Todd and Brian. We're glad you're here, and we hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to visit our website at www.cryptidcreatures.net. By becoming a member, you'll get access to exclusive videos, members-only episodes, early, unedited, ad-free releases, and even a shout-out on an episode. Join us at www.cryptidcreatures.net, and thank you for supporting the show.
Hey, Dustin, thanks for talking to us tonight, man. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for listening to my story.
No problem.
Oh, yeah. It's good to have you.
You had an encounter. When did this happen, Dustin?
This would have been about 5 years ago, right during the later part of the winter, early spring. I think about 5 years ago.
Okay. And where did this happen? What state did this happen in?
In Oklahoma, and southeastern Oklahoma to be more specific, down around Clayton. There's a big town down there called McAllister, but it's about 30 minutes southeast of McAllister.
All right. Well, tell us about your encounter. Tell us what happened to you.
Okay, so I've been a long time Bigfooter, and a buddy of mine that I've known all my life. I'm 43 now. Have some property down there, and I've been down a couple of times for different adventures in that part of the country. It's really a thick wooded area. Lots of different sightings down there. People seeing Bigfoot, and I called him up and I said, "Hey, Tommy, I'd like to go down and stay a few days at your place." And he said, "Well, Dustin, ain't nobody been down there in a long time." He said, "I can tell you how to get there." So he told me, how to get there. He told me where the key to the gate was, and that's how I'd know where I was at when I got there. So I went down there, and it's about 20 minutes from any real maintained road. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's about an hour or so from a town, and there's no houses around there for miles. I mean, it's a really thick wooded area where there's just not very much. And I found the key and went in, and he owns about 100 acres back in there. And I went back to where you could drive as far as you could, which is about, I'd say, a mile and a half, and then hiked the rest of the way and set up camp. And I got camp set up before dark, and I'd already heard things, around the woods and stuff around camp. And I thought, boy, this is already happening. I didn't know exactly what was going on, if it was, wanted to know that it would squatch, And about 1 a.m., I did one single tree knock. And now these are called the Kiamishi Mountains. There's a lot of different lore down there from the Indians that they walk side by side with Bigfoot in that part of the country, and I'm always that guy that wonders why everybody does so many wood knocks and does so many yells. I'm kind of that one and done for a while, and I found a real big limb, and I'm a pretty big guy, and I've been in the fire service and been in shape all my life, so I hit this tree really, really hard with a pair of gloves on, and it carried through the mountains. You could hear it. It carried a long way, and it wasn't but just a few, maybe 2 minutes, and I heard a knock back, and it was quite a ways up into the mountains. And I thought to myself, now listen, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm a long ways from civilization, and I know beyond a doubt in my mind that was a knock. So I waited about 30 minutes, and I swung another real good one and hit the same tree. And I got one back within about 30 seconds that was way close. And I thought, okay, it would have took me about an hour to cover that much terrain from what it sounded like, or a little longer. And that was pretty quick. So I put on my pack and I went walking through the woods. I'd set my waypoint with my compass, and I heard a grunt before I'd hardly got out of my camp very far. And I thought, my goodness, this is action here. And I was a little uneasy at this point. And I kept walking and walked about what I would say was probably 2 miles. And then I'd heard a crunch to the left, to one of my sides, my left side, as a matter of fact, because I remember I was a little uneasy, and I had carried a weapon just in case that it was locals or whatever, because that part of the country gets a little crazy. And it was on my left side. I remember putting my hand on my right side on my pistol, and I heard another crunch on the opposite side, and it was loud. It was real loud. And then I heard a grunt, and I knew that I was too close. So whatever it was, I was too close. I was too far out. I couldn't see. You can't see your hand in front of your face hardly. I had a flashlight, and I was turning it one way and the other. I couldn't see, so I knew that it was time to go back. I was like, I'm going to go back and see how it is tomorrow night. So the whole way back to camp, I felt and heard different things all the way back to camp. I get back to camp, and nothing's disturbed that night. That was on a Thursday, and I'd planned on staying 5 nights. And then the next day, I went out hiking during the day to see what I could see. And I hiked too far, and I forgot that it gets dark there so quick because of the mountains. And then I was out after dark, and I was coming back, and I hadn't done any tree knocks or any yells at that time. And something was following me. And I knew at that point in time that I was being stalked. I've hunted all my life. I've been in the woods all my life. And I could tell that when I would stop, that I couldn't hear anything. And then I could walk a little ways, and I could hear something following me. Well, I got back to where I thought was camp, pretty close to it on my waypoint. And I decided to do one good knock. And when I did that knock, what I got back was bone chilling. I got back a loud yell that was really, really close. So I was just too close again. I came back to camp. My camp was tore up. It had looked like something had went through, and there was no track. It was kind of a dry part of the season, so I couldn't find any real good tracks. And if it was, a bear, which the bear that they have down there are small black bears, he would have ate my food, and there was no food gone. It was just tore up. So I took that as a sign that I was in the wrong spot, and I stayed. The next day, cleaned up camp, packed up certain things. And I was like, I got to see what is tearing up my camp, what I heard. I take another walk and I go in the opposite direction. And that's when my encounter was for sure, 100% for sure. To this day, I tell everybody Bigfoot exists because I seen him. I heard something in the woods, just not very far out. I shined my light over, and within about, I would say, less than 20 feet, stood about 9 foot tall, just covered in hair. Facial features were so easy to see. Huge eyes. I had initially dropped the flashlight and was scared to bend down and pick it up. I picked it up. It yelled so loud when I picked up the flashlight that I didn't even pull a gun. I grabbed my flashlight. I turned tail. I ran back. I heard them. There was more than one. I heard them all the way back to camp. I picked up my stuff in the middle of the night and hiked out the long journey, and I heard him all the way to camp. And it was all the way back to my truck. It was like they knew I was leaving, and it was like they were taunting me, just keep moving. And I could hear a grunt. I could hear a grunt from the other side, and they were so close. And I got in my truck, and I came home, and I've never been back. People want me to take them down there, and I said, there's no way. You guys don't understand how dangerous that country is and how dangerous Bigfoot is, how big he is. I really couldn't get over how big he is. People call him Bigfoot, but until you see him standing up next to a tree in the middle of the night, in the daytime, whatever, he is massive. And I knew that that was something that I didn't want to mess with. So I was very scared, and I never want to see him again, honestly. And that's what happened to me.
Can you describe his face? What features you said you saw?
Oh, it was like, I have a really good flashlight from the fire service, so it's one that most people don't buy because they're so expensive. So it was like shining it, and him being just so, his cheekbones are really high, really thick. His face is not like leather. It's like more of a, the best I could describe to everybody, I was like, when you cook bacon and it curls up before it's done, is what it was like to me. It was like not a leathery face, but just about like ours, only a lot more wrinkled. And his eyes are huge. I remember his eyes being like to me, I tell everybody it was like 2 light bulbs. They were so big. His nose was really wide. It wasn't so much pointed as it was flat. I couldn't really tell. His lips were not real visible. They were just like a mouth. It wasn't like a set of lips like ours, but real close. He had a mouth. Not a lot of fur or hair on his face. A large forehead that seemed to me like it was bigger than my hand. I couldn't see any ears. When he blinked, his eyes were gone. Like, it was really odd when he blinked. And when he opened back up, all I could see was just those great big round eyes. I'll never forget them. I guarantee you that.
Was he looking at you in a menacing way, or was he just kind of staring at you with a blank look on his face, or could you tell?
If I'm an expert at reading people, because in my field in the fire service, I have to interview a lot of people during the interview process when we think there's a foul play at a fire, and it's my job to read people. And when I looked at him, and I couldn't stop staring because I was I was shocked that I was that close. He looked at me like I was in the wrong place. That's just what I tell everybody. I looked at him, he looked at me, and it was just like, man, you got to go. Like, almost like he was a leader of a pack, a leader telling me that, hey, I can only hold these guys at bay so long. I don't know, besides the fact that I knew by looking at him that I was in the wrong place. And he knew by looking at me, it was like some sort of feeling, some sort of loss that I wanted to leave and that they were going to let me leave. I'm Native as well. So I think I got out that night because of that. I didn't carry machine guns and all that stuff down there. I had one weapon, and I knew that it wasn't enough if push come to shove. That the size that he was, it wouldn't have been enough, especially the multitude. And I don't know how many there was. I know there was at least 2 and possibly 3. I don't know. But I do know that he looked at me like, man, you need to go.
What was the scream like? Was it like a yell? Was it like a roar? Was it?
It was like a scream of, not like a lady screaming for help, but like a lady screaming out of anger. It was an angry scream. It wasn't a scared scream. It was just an angry scream.
A lot of people say they feel it in their chest. Did you feel that? Did it hit you when you heard the scream?
I felt it from not just my chest, but like right now, my machine that I'm hooked up to, my blood pressure is fixing to start dinging. Since I know how to turn it off, I've turned it off. Yeah, it was through my entire body. It just wasn't in my chest. Wow. It shook me to the core, and I believe that's what it's supposed to be.
Dustin, you went out there obviously with some intention on trying to interact with Bigfoot or something. Is that right? I mean, you kind of were hoping to have some contact.
Yes.
Maybe not the way it happened.
That's right.
Would you say it's one of those things, careful what you wish for? I've heard people say that before about having an encounter.
100 times over. I tell people, I say, please don't go looking for Bigfoot. If you're going to go looking for Bigfoot, go to a Bigfoot festival, get on one of them 4-wheeler trail rides and go on that. I told you Bigfoot with people, with lots of people. Go do those things. Don't go out in the middle of the woods where there is nothing and nobody, because I feel like I was blessed. I don't believe in luck. I feel like I was blessed that I was able to get out of there, that maybe my native side, maybe they knew I wasn't there to do harm. Maybe they knew by the way that I knocked that I was just one person. I didn't talk a lot. I didn't have no cell phone service down there, by the way, none. And I didn't have anything going on too much besides just eating and walking in the woods during the day and looking for signs. I never in a million years went down there thinking that I was going to see a Bigfoot. I thought that I might hear, but it was 3 days of intense, I wouldn't say torture, and I would have stayed I had a week off. I would have stayed the entire week until I seen him and heard the scream. I recently just got back from Alaska, and I'm going to try and get you in contact with this man that he works for American Airlines. He trains pilots for their final test for American Airlines, and he flies back from Washington to Alaska, and he was wearing a Bigfoot shirt, and I've never been to Alaska before. And I said, hey, you're a fellow Squatch believer? And he said, yes, sir. He said, what do you mean, fellow? And I said, oh, I had an encounter. And I said, tell me a story. And he said, only if you tell me yours. So we shared stories, and he was on a flyback in the middle of the Alaska tundra, and a stewardess screamed one night. He got permission to come around and come about with his plane, and he come about dropped down to altitude, and he said that Bigfoot was walking and never broke stride, never looked up. And for a man that he's like late 50s, early 60s, and to be in the position that he's at, I could tell he was genuinely shaken, but still by the story. And he's seen him from a plane in the middle of nowhere. It's those type of stories that people need to hear. That was so remote that there was nothing out in that tundra, and it was definitely a squatch.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a human walking around out there unless they're looking for a death sentence, right?
So, absolutely, because it's just offshore, not too far, and there's nothing for 1,000 miles in that part of Alaska.
So what was more terrifying, the actual visual standing face to face with this thing? Or are you trying to get the heck out of there and get to your truck worrying about these things coming after you?
It was definitely getting to the truck. I didn't feel like it was wanting to do any type of harm to me when I seen it initially. It's just the initial shock of, oh my God, I'm really literally staring at a Bigfoot. I didn't believe it. I dropped my flashlight, and that's something I just don't ever do, is drop anything. And when I went to bend down, I thought, okay, it's going to be gone. No, it was not gone. And it was just that look of, man, you've got to get out of here. And then I don't know if they were juveniles in a lot of tribes. The warriors in the tribe are always eager to have gone out and sought a fight, and was wanting to fight. The chiefs were always calm and those things, and it felt like he was calm, but yet telling me that I need to get out. And when I was getting my stuff and getting out, I believe that the other Bigfoot that were there that were trailing me were like young warriors, were like menacing, breaking branches, getting closer, but yet not harming me, just chasing me out.
So how long before your encounter happened, which you said was 5 years ago, how long before that happened, Dustin, did you get into researching and looking and going out and looking for Bigfoot?
Probably most of my life, since I was a teenager, and I thought I'd seen one, a long time ago at a huge distance. I was deer hunting. I was about 12 years old, so I'd say, almost 30, 35 years.
And you thought you saw one back then. That's what got you interested in it then.
Yeah. I'd asked my grandpa. I was young now. I was like, 11 or 12, and the sun was setting, and where we were hunting was a long, open range. And I looked through the scope. I was just scoping this hill, and I know this area has no bears at all where we were hunting in western Oklahoma. And I'd seen something walking, and there was nobody out there. It was a wooded mountain area, and there wouldn't have been nobody out there walking around, especially during deer season in Oklahoma. People are smart about deer season and try and stay out of the woods and stuff and wear blaze orange. And I only seen it for a split second, and I wasn't for sure exactly what it was. But being a kid, I was like, Grandpa, I've seen Bigfoot over on that ridge line. And he said, yeah, I've heard that there's something around here. And as soon as he said that, and I was like, I'm a Bigfooter now. And I looked for him for, all my life. And I've heard some things over the years that I thought was a Bigfoot or whatever, but until you see one, you truly don't believe, and then you don't want to see one. You don't want to know, you don't want to believe that there's these huge beings out in the woods that could do whatever they wanted to you. And it's one of those deals. My daughter she's 17 now, and she begs me to take her down there. And I will not. I told her not to go down there. She knows the land down there, and I'm afraid when she turns 18, she's going to go down there without telling me. And that's my biggest fear today. I don't fear anything besides my daughter going down to our friends' place watching by herself, and she's just that adventurous too.
Yeah, and they like the ladies.
Yeah.
So we've heard.
I know. I've heard that, and I told her, I beg of her. I even cried one day. I mean, I had tears running down my face. She's like, Dad, I'm not going without you. And I believe her. She's not a teenage girl that lies. She's not been in trouble, but I'm just fearful that someday she's gonna take after her dad and go down there. And I don't want her down there at all.
Well, she's gonna go eventually, I'm guessing. So you might as well go with her.
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like. You know, I don't know how I would return. You know, I would return with a lot more equipment than I did this time, as far as cameras and night cams. I think what people mess up looking so much for Bigfoot and hanging up game cams, and they don't catch them, or they catch a glimpse of one, or what have you. I think they watch you from the time you get there. I think that they can see. I think they see 100 times better than we do. With eyes like that, they have to see so much better. And I think that they know that you're there, and I think that they see what you're doing. And it's not the thing that they have in their head of they know, but they know. And I think that's where people mess up Bigfoot. And I think only few people that I've ever had tell me about an encounter with them was when they weren't doing things that people normally do to find Bigfoot.
Yeah, we said that all along. That as soon as, if you're in a Bigfoot area, as soon as you step foot in the woods, they know you're there.
Yeah, so, I believe that.
No.
Yeah, I definitely would not let your daughter go alone, and maybe that is a good idea to take her down there with yourself and maybe other people. Maybe she will have some kind of experience where she won't want to go back, at least by herself. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so.
Did this thing look more like a human or like an ape?
Absolutely like a human. I mean, just like a giant human covered in hairs. I hear people say that they look like an ape or a gorilla or something. I have to disagree with all those things. This thing looked almost as human as me, only just 5 times bigger. And I'm a big guy. I say 9 foot because I didn't want to say 12 foot. I don't know how tall he really was, but I know that it was a giant. I've seen a giant now, is what I tell people. It's so big, broad across the shoulders, but it's broad across the hips. It's broad everywhere. And it's just massive. And you know in an instant that it could do whatever you wanted to, because you're not going to outrun it. You're sure not going to outfight it. So that's what I feared the most, that I knew that I was up against something that I couldn't do anything about.
Kind of that feeling of hopelessness, huh?
Yeah. You know, it's like, do I really want to stay and meet my maker, or do I want to be able to get out of here and see my family again? That's where I was at.
Do you think those things still hang around in that area? You think that that's kind of a normal spot for them?
I think so. There's been so many encounters down there that at Honubby, people call it Honobia, but it's really Honubby is the town where they have the annual Bigfoot festival down there. People come from all over the world. That little bitty town, and I've been to it several times, that little bitty town has a population of about 50 people. And during the festival that's coming up in October, about 3,000 people embark on that town and in that community. And they have 4-wheeler rides, and they have storytelling. It's a weekend event. I've been twice, and in that part of the country, a lot of people have Bigfoot stories, and there's Squatch crossing signs and all that stuff down through there. I talked to one man during completely off season that he doesn't hunt anymore down there because he's seen him, and he never believed it, and he just always brushed it off. And he was in his late 50s, and he seen him hunting, and he said, "I've never been back in the woods again."
So you obviously don't go back in the woods either. You won't go back, period.
Not there, not there. And you know what's really weird? It's affected my life so much that where I'm at now, I live up in northwestern Oklahoma, which is completely, it's like 6 hours from down there. I have a wide open space, like forever, that I hunt up here. It's open fields, and there's very few tree lines and forest. When you find a tree line, you have plenty of deer on the property. It's a premier deer hunting place in the United States. Actually, more trophies come from up here than anywhere else. So even now, when I deer hunt, I leave about 10 minutes before dark. I just don't spend very much time in the woods at dark, even up here, because if he's down there, people seen him everywhere. You know, there's sightings all over the United States. And while I was in Alaska on a mission trip this past week, it was daytime there until midnight, and I was out hiking one night and didn't realize how quickly it gets dark when it does start to get dark. And I went from a walk to a sprint back to the house where I was staying before it got dark, because I sure wasn't going to mess around up in Alaska because their encounters up there are really, really tough. I've heard a couple of their stories from a couple of people over the week, and they've been screamed at like I was. One guy, and I didn't even tell my story, and this guy told me, and I didn't want to mess with that because he said his teeth, he's seen him scream, and his teeth were just so massive that he was afraid he was going to get ate. You know, I've never heard anybody getting ate by Bigfoot, but in 2016, a man disappeared on Alyeska Mountain, which is a large ski mountain. The Olympic trainers go up there, and in 2016, a man from Texas disappeared up there, and they found his personal belongings, and none of those were ate. Like, he had a backpack full of food, and if it was a bear, and he was just gone. And you can look it up, Mount Alyeska in Alaska, Texas man in 2016, and read the story. And I think the guy got taken. I think he got taken by Bigfoot for whatever reason. And I read the entire story, and I wasn't messing around up there. So, no, I don't stay out at night in the woods to this day. And I'm a grown man, runs into burning buildings for a living.
We've talked about Oklahoma before. Most people kind of think of Oklahoma as just kind of a flat kind of fields. But, yeah, you get in the eastern part and more southern eastern part, it does get very wooded,
It's just like being, it's just like being in any forest mountain area that you've ever been to. It's just, they're just shorter mountains, 3,200 foot is about the highest that any of the Comanches are down there, but there's a bunch of them. I mean, if you look on the map of the Oklahoma map and you look down in there, it's that whole kind of corner. I mean, it's miles and miles and miles of Comanche mountains. It's, it's a big logging community still to this day. They haul logs out of there, trees out of there all day until 5 o'clock. They don't let them run the roads anymore because it's too dangerous. Those people have it. I say those people, the people that live down there, they still live in a lot of the older ways. There's not a lot of stores down there. There's not a lot of nothing down there. From McAllister's the big city that's the closest. And after you leave that and head down into towards Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas and that corner where everything meets, it's still set back, 40, 50 years from where modern day times really are. Just kind of the last of the forest people down in there, I guess. It's thick. It's thick.
Yeah, and Alaska too. I mean, you were talking about being out there. I mean, you've got grizzlies. You've got everything in Alaska that can kill you, basically, let alone running into a Bigfoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew that, I had one night, the last night I was there, I stayed up for the Aurora Borealis. I was hoping to catch the Northern Lights, and whatever was out in front of the house was definitely a bear. I I got some eye shine on video and what have you. But a couple of nights before, we had heard something hit there's 9 of us in this beautiful, beautiful home. We kept hearing at night things hit the wall. And we joked about it. And they didn't know that I'd been through that before, because there's some people I just don't tell, you know. I wanted my story to be heard on a podcast, because not very many people, you know, would know me on a podcast. And everybody needs to know the most important thing is don't go out by yourself looking for Bigfoot. Just don't. It's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And it's not the smart thing to do.
Where do you think these things come from, Dustin?
You know, I've been asked that question so many times by so many people. And I say, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm a very godly man. I have traveled all over helping people with mission trips in the name of Jesus. And I don't know what these things are. I don't know if I believe that they were crossed with humans from an ape. It just does not make sense to me with the way their facial features are. I don't know if they crash landed from another planet way back when. I don't know. It's one of those questions that I just don't have an answer to. I don't know. I know that they're real, and I know that they're scary. And that's 2 things I can put my feet on.
Yeah, going back to, you were talking about how they kind of look like a human. We've heard a lot of people say that they kind of look like an Aborigines person, or just kind of a little bit of a maybe a prehistoric kind of looking guy, a man, or an ancient looking man, but very close to human, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so close to a human that I felt like it was smart. You know, I felt like it knew me, if that makes any sense. That it felt like, man, you're way off of your beaten path. I don't know why you're here, but you better get out, is what I keep telling everybody. It looked at me like with some intelligence. And it seems like to me that they've been around since the beginning, because my tribe has many different paintings from way back when, even in the caves, that are that look like Bigfoot, some sort of giant, some sort of large person, but they were so close that they walked hand in hand with him. They gave him food, and he protected them. It was like a protector of types, and they never feared him. I think that at one point in time that he was some sort of protector for the tribe. But I think they've been around since the beginning. I don't think that it was something that was just, made. A lot of people think that maybe a chemical experiment went wrong or something like that. And I'm not behind that. I'm just behind that. I think they were prehistoric, and, that over the years they've just been able to survive.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of a mix between human and apes, I guess. But then people talk about the whole magical part and what they call the woo and all that, that mystical side to them. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a privilege having you on tonight, Dustin, and talking to you and hearing your encounter. That's definitely a very horrifying, to say the least. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
Like I said, the most terrifying part had to have been, like you said, just trying to get back to your truck, hoping you can make it out of there,
Yeah, and I'm not one to leave things. I hate littering. I hate leaving, especially on a buddy of mine's land. But I didn't even take the tent. There's still a tent down there in the middle of the woods.
Oh, I'm sure that's completely shredded.
Yeah, that belongs to the Bigfoot now.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I want to go back to see, is there any signs of camp back there at all? But I don't want to camp, and it's so far back that I'd have to get there as soon as the sun came up, to get back. But I don't know. I think my daughter's going to end up making me go.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say after 5 years, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But if you change your mind and you go and you take your daughter or whatever, you know, keep your eyes open and maybe you can
come back and let us know what happened.
Come back and tell us if you do get out there. Take a couple ARs with you. You know,
yeah,
fine.
Absolutely. My daughter's cracked shots.
Well, there you go.
So, you know,
Annie Oakley.
You know, I tell you, here's the deal. You guys have inspired me talking to you about it, and
good.
Thinking, and she's going to end up going no matter what. She turns 18 in October, and I think for her birthday, I'll probably take her. October 20th is her birthday, and I think we'll probably go down and check it out.
Well, let us know what happens.
Well, yeah, let us know what happens, and be careful.
I will. All right, I will do. Thank you guys for hearing my story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here,
I feel
Dustin.
better now, even after 5 years now.
That's great, man. We're glad we can help you feel better.
It's our pleasure. It's an honor to hear it.
Well, thank you.
All right, we'll see you then, Dustin. Take care, buddy.
All right, Dustin.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
You're listening to the Cryptid Creatures Show. If you're a fan of the show, go and check out our new Patreon site. You'll get access to our private Discord server, exclusive merchandise, access to all live streams and Q&As, discounts on merch from the Cryptid Creatures store, and get a chance to be a guest host during one of the show's recordings. Just go to www.patreon.com/cryptidcreatures1. Thank you for listening and supporting the show.
Yeah, I definitely would have been terrified, to say the least. Probably more so getting back to the truck than anything.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen there.
You know, the more and more we hear these encounters, Brian, I keep thinking to myself, I understand people don't believe, because the reality of it is your mind's going to say, no, if they were there, we'd know it, we'd see them, it's not a cover-up. But we keep hearing these stories more and more and more, and I'm just getting saturated to the fact that they're there, they're hard to come by, but there's got to be something with these things, man. There's got to be something where they're dimensional or something like that. If they lived here 100% of the time and were always out in the woods, you would think more people would start running into these things.
Yeah. Or they'd be coming more and more into the cities or closer to neighborhoods.
I want to truly believe these are just a flesh and blood, natural earth creature, but I got to say there's something else about it.
Sometimes you never know. Yeah, we get so many different reports. It's pretty wild.
It almost drives me nuts wondering if we're ever going to figure this out someday, but that's why we're here doing this, right? It's the journey. So
yeah, that's why we started this.
All right, my friend, with that, we'll wrap this up, call this another episode, and get out of here. Until next time, what do you say?
Yep. See ya.